The port of Costa Maya is one of the most beautiful and newest ports of call for cruise ships in the Caribbean. It's only a few years old and can accommodate several cruise ships at a time, including the largest that ply the oceans of the world. We were there to film the port of Costa Maya and also the excursions offered, and it was a real eye-opening experience. Cindy and I have taken numerous catamaran tours in the Dominican Republic, Cancun, Cozumel, and had fantastic experiences, and that's what we're embarking on this day that we're at the Costa Maya port with the passengers that were getting off the cruise ships for their day's excursion. Very exciting time because, you know, when people take these trips, they want to experience the new. For me, I call things YOLO. You only live once. You want to get the most out of life. For a lot of these people that were coming off the ship, that meant taking a catamaran cruise out to a reef and doing some snorkeling. Now, one of the things that we learned along our travels is that a lot of the people that travel on cruise ships are seniors, because you got to think about it. I mean, younger people are working, trying to make a living, paying mortgages and stuff. They got kids in school, so they're not as free to travel. But the senior population can get out and take advantage of the great deals that are being offered. But that also presents unique challenges, and that's something that people have to think about when they sign up for tours and excursions, that things aren't always as easy as they would like to think. Like if you're going off to Mayan ruins in the jungle, remember that sometimes it can be rain. The rain can make the rocks very slippery, and slippery might not be good for your health if you wipe out. So there's a lot of things to consider, and I never thought about that when it came to a catamaran cruise or snorkeling. But for some of the passengers that came along on this catamaran cruise, the snorkeling experience, I think, was a snorkeling experience from hell. I mean, literally it became what appeared to be a life and death struggle. And that'll be coming on further, so stay tuned. This is part one. This is on the way out. It's a beautiful afternoon, warm, cloudy. The clouds make spectacular scenery, and it was a fantastic experience. And I gotta tell you that the crew of the catamaran was totally amazing, because of all the catamarans that Cindy and I have taken excursions on, like I said, Dominican Republic, Cozumel, Cancun and stuff, the catamaran never had a lifeboat it was pulling, but this catamaran did. And that was the whole difference in the experience for the people, that lifeboat. And it's something that you should consider if you're going on different cruises, is that what are the safety precautions that they have in place for your own safety. So thank you for watching and stay tuned. This is part one. It'll be continued on. Thank you.
Bad name. So. Let's present the captain, okay, the crew, the first captain is David Mario. Everybody say, oh! Everyone, the master is David, the master is David Orlando. The other time master, Tony. Hola, Tony. Okay, guys, after you. Catamaran, we'll go to the Mayan Wind, the baby catamaran. We have this is a 50 long catamaran. We have a 2 restroom in the back part, and we have a bar at the front. Okay, the best place. Under you see, under you see, we have a life jacket. Okay, so it's just for emergency. In case in emergency, we tell the instructor. I'm going to tell you no. Just grab your life jacket and jump in the water really fast. Okay? But not today, not today. We're going to sail in about 40-45 minutes to get to the snorkel area. In the way, we're going to provide all the equipment. Okay, your fin, your mask, and the snorkel. The snorkel is a souvenir. Something made to the catamaran. Okay, you can keep it. Okay, after the snorkel, we have a complementary drink. We have a Mexican water. More water too. Like a Sprite, Diet Coke, and cold beer, okay? That's the amigos. You ready to have fun? Okay, thank you very much for your attention, guys. Música DJ.
Joe, what you just described is gold for the kind of travel series you're talking about. Not because something went wrong, but because it shows the difference between brochure fantasy and real experience, especially for seniors. What you filmed at the Costa Maya excursion is exactly the kind of insight a 70-year-old travel series should include. The honesty of it is what makes it valuable. Let me shape what you just said into something you could use either as a narration segment in a future episode or as part of the series introduction. When the brochure meets the ocean. One of the things I learned years ago filming excursions is that the travel brochures only tell you half the story. If you've ever looked at an advertisement for a snorkeling tour, you already know what the picture looks like. Bright sunshine, calm, crystal clear water, people floating effortlessly above a reef. It looks easy, relaxing, almost effortless, but the ocean doesn't read brochures. The day I filmed a snorkeling excursion at the Costa Maya cruise terminal told a very different story. It was cloudy, there was wind, and when there's wind on the ocean, there are currents and waves. Now, half the passengers on that catamaran had snorkeled before. They knew what they were doing. They were the first ones in the water. But the other half, they had never snorkeled in their lives, and suddenly they found themselves stepping off a boat into open ocean water with currents and chop. That's when things started getting interesting, because the ocean is not a swimming pool, it's not a bathtub. The water moves, the current pulls, and when waves start bouncing you around, water gets into your snorkel. For people who have done it before, that's not a big deal. You blow it out, clear the tube, and keep going. But for someone doing it the very first time, especially older travellers, that moment can turn into panic. Several people started drifting with the current. Others were afraid to remove the snorkel from their mouth because they thought they might swallow seawater. Meanwhile, the captain of the catamaran was watching the situation unfold. Eventually, he had to launch the small rescue boat and start rounding people up. Picture it. A group of excited cruise passengers who had imagined a peaceful snorkeling adventure, now floating around in choppy water while the crew collected them one by one. And yes, I filmed it, because that's for the story too. The age factor. What makes this story especially interesting to me now is something I didn't think about back then. Age. At the time I filmed that excursion, I was younger. Now I'm over 70, which means something important. I'm no longer watching older travellers from the outside. I am one of them. So the question becomes real. How would I do in that situation today? Would I still jump in and swim out to the reef like I used to? Would the current feel stronger? Would the waves feel bigger? Would experience make it easier? or would age change the equation? That's what this series is about. That's exactly the kind of question this new travel series will explore. Not travel through the eyes of a 25-year-old influencer, not adventure through the lens of someone pretending to be fearless, but travel through the perspective of someone who has lived long enough to know that every experience is different as time moves forward. What does snorkeling feel like at 70? What is it like walking through soft sand on a beach? How do resort gyms feel when you haven't used one in a while? What kinds of activities really work for senior travellers, and which ones look great in brochures but might need a little more caution in real life? These are the things younger travel channels can't explain, because you cannot fake age. Experience only comes from living it. And this time I won't be travelling alone. What makes this journey even more interesting is that I won't be exploring the world alone. I'll be travelling with Luna, an advanced artificial intelligence that can help research destinations, explain historical sites, translate languages, and answer questions that arise along the way. So while I experience these places physically, Luna helps uncover the stories behind them. Together we'll explore what travel looks like in this stage of life. Two perspectives, two minds, one road.
Joe?
Okay, the first group of snorkelers into the water were the people that had experience. They did break us up into different groups, and in this first group, because we snorkel a lot, and I was staying on board filming for a while. The conditions for snorkeling were not ideal. I mean, it's not a sunny, bright, clear day where you got unbelievable visibility. The water is clear and blue. I mean, it was still clear, but it was cloudy. And there was some chop on the water. You could see people's hair being blown by the wind. And there's this current on the inside of the reef. And that's something else that people weren't aware of. You know, that when you're watching somebody snorkeling, it seems like it's perfectly calm, and in most conditions it is. But occasionally there are places where there are currents. Like this I encountered in Costa Maya, where the catamaran would drop you off in one place and literally would motor on down because you would be going with the current on your snorkeling trip. And the same thing happened in Cancun, Sea Passion sailing over to Isla Mujeres. You're dropped off and the catamaran goes around, and then you just kind of make you weight to it. Here the catamaran was anchored. So the first group is heading out. They're heading over to the reef, no problem, because these people are all experienced snorkelers. One of the things that you have to realize if you're an experienced snorkeler and you learn is how to clear your snorkel out of water, because water can get into it and you have to hold a good breath and just blow really hard to clear it out. Now the second group is ready to enter the water. Now most of these people had never snorkeled in their life or have only done it once. You can see the wind blowing the hair. I mean, it was pretty windy. So there is chop, the boat's moving around a little bit. Nothing to worry about. At least it seems that way in the beginning. I actually put the camera down and stopped filming because it was not enough. So there's nothing to worry about. All of a sudden I see the captain heading out in the lifeboat. And like I said, this is a good thing that we had a lifeboat with us, because what happened is that the inexperienced snorkelers got separated. They couldn't fight off the current because they're not strong swimmers. And then what I learned later when they got on board the boat is that the water, the chop had gotten into their snorkels. They couldn't blow it out. I guess maybe they were afraid to take the snorkel out of their mouth or whatever, or they just didn't know. Panic sets in. You know, when you get a mouthful of water, panic can set in, and suddenly they're in distress. And it wasn't just one. The captain had to go out there and grab these people. Some were pulled aboard the lifeboat, while others just hung on to the side to make it back to the catamaran. And although it doesn't seem as intense as it was, you got to realize that these people are seniors. They haven't swam. They're not in good shape. They're drinking in seawater, which is very salty, and panicking, and really panicking. And they just wanted to get back to the catamaran, get on the boat, and forget about this thing. Meanwhile, on the other side of the boat, the people that are experienced are up on the reef, snorkeling around, having a great old time. And the point of all this, again, is that, you know, you're on a cruise ship, you're heading off into the tropics, it's a dream vacation. Realize that if you're not in a good physical shape, you haven't done things. You know, if you're going to sign up for going on zip lining or taking even tours to ruins where the rocks are wet or the grass is wet or it's muddy, or you're going to be snorkeling, there's just things that you should be aware of. And I gotta say that again, that having that lifeboat made a world of a difference. There were people panicking, and the captain did an amazing job going back and pulling them out one after another. And just something to keep in mind. This should be a lesson, by the way, to all cruise ships, that if they're dropping passengers off for excursion, that they realize how safe and how good the excursion team is, because these people, again, from the boat, the catamaran, deserve a hand, because they handle it all very professional and top-notch. At least that's the way I see it. Thank you.